You know, one of the funnest birds to watch in your gardens are hummingbirds, and I'm here with Scott at Backyard Bird Shop. And Scott, we're going to be talking today about hummingbirds. Going to get rid of some myths maybe and give some information out about them. So what's the first thing that I should be thinking about if I want to start attracting hummingbirds to my
Okay,
yard?
well, William, there are hummingbirds all over the place, especially this time of year when we have two species of hummingbirds here. Our rufous hummingbird, which is here just during the summertime, and then the Annas, which is here 12 months out of the year.
Nice.
So they're here, and they're in your yard. They're looking for food, nectar, and flowers. They're also taking insects. That's a major part of their diet, small flying insects. So the first thing we want to do is put out a hummingbird feeder. And they will come. They are always looking for food, all during the daylight hours. So they're not that hard to attract, and they're quite fun to watch.
And I'm assuming that this whole variety of stuff is hummingbird feeders right here.
Yeah, we have, at Backyard Bird Shop, we have about 75 different hummingbird feeders. But we have some favorites that I have, particularly I love these little small saucer type feeders. They're very easy to clean, very easy to open and get into. And the hummingbirds just love them. They perch on the ring here and take the nectar from them.
And then I noticed that you have an umbrella here. What would that be for?
The umbrella, thank you for asking that question. The umbrella in our wetter than normal climate shields the hummingbird feeder from the rain and therefore prevents the nectar from being diluted.
Oh, okay.
So
that makes sense.
And we have a number of these different colors, different styles, but basically the idea is to keep the nectar at a 4-to-1 ratio.
Well, and you've got, you know, if you have a lot of them, you could go up in size to get a larger one. But explain this cap to me. I don't understand that.
William, this is a built-in ant moat. So in the summertime, the sugar ants are attracted also to the nectar. And so a hummingbird feeder with a moat on top, an ant moat, you fill this with water, and then the hummingbirds, the ants come down the cord and cannot get to the nectar, actually.
So it really is a moat to protect from ants.
It's a major deterrent, yes. And for people who already have a hummingbird feeder, you just attach this to the top.
Okay.
And then that prevents the same thing from happening.
Well, now, speaking of feeding, let's, you know, I personally have heard of a lot of kind of criticism of feeding hummingbirds like this because they're not getting protein, that's not the nutrition, they'll get used to only feeding off here and then they'll get, you know, sick. Give us some information, help us sort out that.
We hear that question a lot too in our stores, and essentially birds, not just hummingbirds, but birds are programmed not to rely upon one source of food.
Yeah.
And it's so logical because if they did in nature, if they're feeding on a flower, that flower quits blooming or it quits producing seeds, and so therefore they wouldn't have any food if they were reliant on that one flower.
That makes sense.
So typically birds have a feeding territory, hummingbirds as well as all songbirds, and they're moving through that feeding territory all through the day. And that way, if one source dries up, they still have others. And it's true with hummingbird feeders.
So they really are kind of smarter than us humans in that respect, because sometimes, you know, we get used to one thing and go over and over. They're not going to do that.
This is true. Yeah.
Well, now, I noticed that this is adorable. Tell us about this.
This, I was a skeptic myself. This is Pop's hummingbird swing. And basically, if you've watched hummingbirds, they always, once they identify a food source, they begin to guard that food source. And so they'll perch in a tree nearby. Well,
they are territorial for such a tiny little creature.
Very territorial. They're the terriers of the bird world. Well, you hang Pop's hummingbird swing near your hummingbird feeder, and this gives the little guy a place to perch and guard his food source.
And even though you were doubtful, it actually worked.
It actually worked.
Well, certainly if you have any other questions about not only hummingbirds and regular other types of birds, but attracting wildlife to your gardens, you can go to any of the locations at Backyard Bird Shops and talk to their excellent staff. And to find those locations, you go to gardentime.tv. Scott, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you,
Always a
William.
pleasure.